You are listening to CLAT Tribe. All right, it is Sunday, February 1st, 2026. And I really hope you have a strong cup of coffee in hand this morning.
Oh, you're gonna need it.
We are digging into the Sunday edition of The Hindu. And, the news cycle this weekend,
Yeah.
it feels like a pressure cooker that just whistled. We've got this fresh stack of papers here, and the headlines are, they're relentless.
They really are. Usually Sundays are for slow reads, maybe a bit of analysis, a crossword. But today, it feels like the ground is literally shifting under our feet.
It does.
We're looking at a huge political change in Maharashtra that happened almost overnight, a historic economic handshake with Europe, and some really simmering tensions bubbling up everywhere from university campuses to the Andaman Islands.
And that's exactly our mission for today's deep dive.
Yeah.
We need to connect these dots. We're not just reading headlines. We want to understand the machinery behind them. It's high-stakes political drama, massive economic milestones, and that social friction that, always comes when a country tries to change this fast.
And we have to start with the lead story. It honestly reads like the third act of a political thriller. There's a swearing-in ceremony that happened yesterday evening, but it took place in the literal shadow of a tragedy.
Right.
It's created a historic first for Maharashtra, but if you look at the source material closely, it's also deepened a very personal, very public family rift.
Let's get straight into it then. We're talking about this sudden, almost jarring shift in power in Maharashtra.
We are. To really get the gravity of what happened yesterday on Saturday, we have to rewind just a few days. The catalyst for all of this was the death of NCP leader Ajit Pawar.
Right, and for context, this was a massive shock. He died in an air crash in Baramati. That was January 28th.
Right.
The state observed a 3-day mourning period. It was one of those moments where politics usually takes a back seat.
Exactly, and that's why the timeline here is so striking. That mourning period had barely concluded before the political machinery kicked right back into high gear. The ink was hardly dry on the tributes.
It's just a day after the mourning ended.
Just a day after. On Saturday evening, his wife, Sunetra Pawar, was sworn in as the Deputy Chief Minister of Maharashtra.
That moves beyond just being efficient.
Yeah.
And straight into the realm of urgent.
Completely urgent.
It feels like there wasn't even a moment for anyone to just breathe.
It does. And, it's significant for two really distinct reasons. First, if you look at the history books, Sunetra Pawar is now the first woman to occupy the post of Deputy Chief Minister in Maharashtra. That's a huge deal.
A glass ceiling completely shattered, which is a massive milestone.
Yeah.
Regardless of the politics, having a woman in the deputy CM seat for a state like Maharashtra is a headline in itself.
It absolutely is. And she hasn't been given, lightweight responsibilities either. She's got 3 big portfolios: excise, minority affairs, and sports and youth welfare.
So serious stuff.
Very. But what really stands out to me here looking at the reports is that hurry factor you mentioned. The ceremony in Mumbai lasted barely a few minutes. It wasn't a grand coronation. It was functional, quick, and done.
Which usually implies there's something bubbling under the surface. Why the rush? Was it a fear of a vacuum, or was it about securing the seat before questions could be asked?
Well, this is where it gets fascinating and really complicated. You have to look at the family dynamics, which, in Indian politics are often the same as party dynamics.
Okay.
You've got the patriarch of the other faction, the NCPSP, Sharad Pawar. He held a press conference in Baramati, and he didn't just offer condolences, he was pointed. He claimed the family was neither consulted nor informed about this swearing in.
So the senior-most member of the family, the architect of the whole party, really finds out about this through the news tickers like the rest of us.
Essentially. And he clarified that there was no proposal for a merger at this stage. But here's the detail that really changes the narrative, and this is the part that makes it tragic as well as political.
Go on.
Sharad Pawar revealed that before the crash, reunification talks between him and the late Ajit Pawar were actually in the final stages.
Wait, what? So they were about to patch things up. That changes the entire complexion of the last few.
That's what he claims. He said it was Dada's wish, referring to Ajit Pawar, that the two parties reunite. And now, with this sudden appointment of Sunetra Pawar, he's suggesting this was a decision taken independently by other leaders, like Praful Patel and Sunil Tatkar.
Ah, so the implication is they're bypassing that reunification idea to cement their own power.
Exactly, cementing their own positions within the current power structure. So on one hand, you have a grieving family and a historic appointment for women. On the other, you have this political maneuvering that might be cementing the split rather than healing it. It's incredibly messy.
It really is a very fragile moment.
It's all about succession and survival. Politically, though, the support for Sunetra Pawar seems solid. Prime Minister Modi and Home Minister Amit Shah, they immediately congratulated her on social media.
Okay, so the top brass is on board.
And internally, the numbers hold up. The NCP legislature party met in Mumbai. 45 out of 48 members showed up.
That's a strong showing. 45 out of 48 suggests the party is falling in line, regardless of what the patriarch says.
It does. They chose her as the group leader proposed by Chhagan Bhujbal. So despite the family tension, the party machinery is moving forward. It's a classic case of political continuity amidst personal tragedy.
It's almost Shakespearean. But speaking of moving forward, let's pivot to something that's going to affect a lot more than just one state. We need to talk about the economy and apparently a massive milestone.
The mother of all deals.
That's a bold title. We are talking about the India-European Union Free Trade Agreement, the FTA.
Yes, this was signed in New Delhi on January 27th, and it is a huge deal. Commerce Minister Piyush Goyal is already claiming it'll be implemented within this calendar year, 2026.
Okay, let's pause here and break this down. We hear FTA all the time. But for you listening, why is this one dubbed the mother of all deals? What makes the EU so different from, say, a deal with Australia or the UAE?
It comes down to two things: access and standards. The EU is a massive market, one of the wealthiest in the world. But it's also a bit of a fortress. They have incredibly high standards and tariff taxes on imports that make it hard for outside goods to compete. This deal cracks that open.
It gives significant tariff concessions, right? So what kind of goods are we talking about here? Is this high-tech stuff?
Actually, the big win is for our labor-intensive sectors. We're talking about textiles, apparel, manufactured goods. This is huge for India because we compete with countries like Bangladesh and Vietnam, who've often had easier access to Europe.
So if Indian clothes can get into Europe cheaper, that means more orders for Indian factories.
That's a direct link to job creation. It affects the guy on the factory floor. And it also covers Indian traditional medicine services, Ayurveda, and yoga. That's a sector India has been pushing hard globally.
Okay, that makes sense.
If this works as intended, it really opens the floodgates for Indian exporters who were previously priced out of that European market.
Which explains why the international reaction has been so positive. I saw the UAE Foreign Ministry weighed in, which seemed odd at first. Why do they care?
It's about validation. The UAE called the pact a model of economic partnerships. And remember, they already have a big partnership with India. For them to point at the India-EU deal and say, good job, that signals global confidence. It tells other nations that India is open for business at the highest level.
It feels like there's a concerted effort to build this narrative of a developed future. It's not just about trade, it's about branding the nation.
That is the perfect way to put it. It is branding. And if we connect this to the bigger picture, look at what's happening domestically. We have a report here about BJP President Nitin Nabin speaking in Goa. He's talking about a Viksit Goa, a developed Goa vision for the 2027 elections.
So the trade deal isn't just a trade deal. It's part of this broader Viksit or developed campaign.
Yes. Whether it's a trade deal in Delhi or an election pitch in Panaji, the narrative is consistent. Rapid economic ascent. We're moving from developing to developed, but. And there is always a but in these deep dives.
Here we go. I was waiting for the other shoe to drop.
This rapid ascent, it often causes friction. When you push for massive development, something usually pushes back. You can't change a country this size without some resistance or consequences.
And that brings us to our next segment. We're looking at tensions in development and society. And we have to start with a story that takes us far away from the mainland to the Great Nicobar Island.
This is a classic example of the development versus environment dilemma, but dialed up to 11. We're talking about the holistic development of Great Nicobar Island.
Holistic sounds nice and gentle like a spa treatment, but the numbers attached to this are staggering. This is a 72,000 crore rupee initiative.
Spearheaded by Niti Aayog. And the goal is incredibly ambitious. Transform this remote, tranquil island into a major transshipment and defense hub. They want a port, an airport, a power plant, a whole township.
For those who don't know, a transshipment hub is basically a massive transfer point for cargo ships, right? Like Singapore or Colombo.
Exactly. It's where big ships offload containers to smaller ships. It's highly lucrative. But the location, that's the real issue.
Because this isn't empty land. We're not building on a parking lot here.
Far from it. This is a pristine ecosystem, a biosphere reserve. It's home to the Shompen and Nicobarese tribes who've lived there for centuries in relative isolation. The source material describes it as a currently tranquil place poised for radical transformation.
That phrase, radical transformation, sends a bit of a shiver down your spine if you care about ecology. You can't just pave over a rainforest and expect it to bounce back.
And it raises that fundamental question. Can you drop a 72,000 crore rupee concrete project into a sensitive biosphere without destroying it? The government's argument is that it's a strategic and economic necessity, to counter China's influence. Environmentalists and indigenous rights groups argue it's irreversible destruction. It's the definition of an immovable object meeting an irresistible force.
It's the ultimate trade-off, national security versus heritage and environment. And speaking of friction, let's move from the islands to the campuses. There's a lot of heat in New Delhi right now over the UGC.
Yes, the University Grants Commission. This is about the rules that govern equity and discrimination in our colleges.
So on January 29th, the Supreme Court stepped in and basically paused the new 2026 UGC equity regulations. Why? What was wrong with them?
The main criticism from what I'm reading is that the new rules were they were vague. The previous regulations from 2012 were quite specific about what counts as discrimination. The new rules, critics argue, defined it much more narrowly, specifically only on the basis of caste or tribe.
So if you were discriminated against for other reasons, say religion, gender, disability, the new rules might not have covered you as explicitly.
That's the fear. By narrowing the definition, you potentially narrow the protection. And it has led to a backlash. We're seeing protests at Jantar Mantar with professors and students. They feel it's a dilution of social justice mechanisms on campus.
And of course, because this is 2026 and everything is online, there's a weird social media side story to this.
There always is. BJP MP Manoj Tiwari has actually filed an FIR. Apparently, there's a fake Facebook account using his name and photo that's been posting criticisms of these very UGC rules.
So he's claiming that's not me criticizing the government, that's a bot.
Essentially, he's distancing himself from the criticism while the actual protests are happening on the street. It just adds another layer of confusion to an already heated issue.
It really does. Okay, let's shift gears. We've covered politics, economy, social tension, left to a quick sweep of security environment and some other quick hits. What's happening on the internal security front?
Well, the Northeast remains a focal point. In Manipur, there was a massive rally in Imphal on Saturday.
What was the message there?
Territorial integrity. Thousands of people asserted that the state cannot be divided. It's a very clear signal to the central government that any solution to the ongoing issues can't involve redrawing the map. It's a line in the sand from the people in the valley.
Got it. And moving north to Kashmir.
The army has reported reestablishing contact with a group of Jaish-e-Mohammed or GEM terrorists.
Reestablish contact is a very polite military way of saying they found them.
It is. They've been hiding in the upper reaches of Kishtwar since mid-January. It shows the security grid is active, pursuing these groups into really difficult terrain, a reminder that the operation is constant.
But it's not just military action. There's political friction on the streets, too.
True. In Srinagar, the PDP, led by Mahbooba Mufti, tried to hold a protest march.
What triggered this?
This was in response to an incident in Uttarakhand where a Kashmiri shawl seller was thrashed. The PDP wanted to march against that, but the police in Srinagar thwarted the protest.
And I'm guessing Mahbooba Mufti didn't take that quietly.
Not at all. She criticized the administration for caging peaceful protests. It just highlights that recurring tension we see. The administration wants to maintain order, while political parties feel their democratic space is being squeezed.
It's a constant push and pull. Now let's look at the sky. What's the weather forecast?
While it's getting hot, the IMD is predicting that February is going to be hotter than usual.
Great. Just what we needed.
And looking further ahead, they're noting that El Nino might reemerge after July of this year.
Can you remind us what El Nino actually does? We hear the term, but what's the impact on the ground for India?
Simply put, it's a warming of the ocean surface in the Pacific that messes with global wind patterns. For India, El Nino usually means weaker monsoons.
Which means less rain for crops.
Exactly. The IMD said a clearer picture will emerge in April, but if it kicks in, it could really impact agriculture. And if agriculture takes a hit, food prices go up. It affects everyone's wallet.
And weather isn't the only environmental threat. There was a bad fire in Kolkata.
A tragic story that exposes a massive urban planning failure. A warehouse fire on Republic Day killed over 25 people. But the investigation is showing this warehouse was part of illegal construction, encroaching on the East Kolkata wetlands.
The wetlands are a Ramsar site, right? internationally protected.
Yes, and they're vital. They serve as the city's natural kidney. They naturally filter the sewage for the entire city of Kolkata.
So we are literally building fire traps on top of this life support system.
That is the grim reality. It's a stark reminder that illegal construction isn't just a paperwork violation. It costs lives and destroys the environment.
That's heavy. Let's try to end with a few quick hits to round out the news. Give us something a bit lighter.
Okay, on the sports field, some good news. Ishan Kishan. His blitz powered India to a 4-1 series win.
Love to see it. It's good to have that aggression in the lineup.
And in infrastructure, Prime Minister Modi is in Punjab today, Sunday. He's renaming the Adampur airport and inaugurating a new terminal at Halwara. It connects back to that theme of development we talked about.
And finally, something from the South.
Kerala Tourism. They're launching a Kerala for All initiative. The idea is to make tourism more democratic and inclusive.
Inclusive in what way?
Accessible destinations, more community involvement. It's a nice counter-narrative to some of the exclusion we talked about with the UGC or the tribal issues in Nicobar. This is about opening spaces up.
I like that. Kerala for all. So when we step back, what does this all mean? We've covered a lot of ground today.
If you step back, the theme of today is really about new beginnings and old shadows.
How so?
Think about it. You have Sunetra Pawar, a new beginning, a first woman deputy CM. But it's shadowed by the tragedy of her husband's death and the old family conflict. You have the India-EU trade deal, a massive new economic beginning. But it's happening alongside these persistent challenges. Tribal rights in Nicobar, friction in Kashmir, the fragility of our environment in Kolkata.
That's like every step forward drags a bit of the past with it.
Exactly. Progress is never a straight line. It's messy. The Viksit, or developed future the government wants, is being built in real time, and it's bumping up against the hard realities of ecology, social equity, and political legacy.
It really makes you think. And here's a thought I want to leave you with today. We talked about the Great Nicobar Project, 72,000 crores for holistic development.
That word holistic is doing a lot of heavy lifting.
It is. But can rapid infrastructure growth on that scale ever truly coexist with preserving a pristine ecosystem and indigenous tribes? Or are we just kidding ourselves? Is one always, inevitably, sacrificed for the other? Is a sustainable mega project an oxymoron?
That is the billion-dollar question, or in this case, the 72,000 crore question.
Indeed. Something to mull over as you start your week. Thank you for listening to CLAT Tribe.